We're here at the BICSI Winter Conference, and I am standing with Rick. He is with VoltServer. NCS is working with VoltServer on a transportation project where we're installing cameras on the roadways. And VoltServer is digital electricity. And for our clients that have absolutely no idea what digital electricity is, can you kind of explain what is digital electricity and how does that compare to traditional power?
Sure. Digital electricity is taking house power, standard traditional power, converting it to digital electricity, which is 350 volts DC that we pulse. So it's pulse power, which allows us to go very long distance over very small copper. So the idea is that you're sending high voltage across 16 gauge, 18 gauge cable, long distance up to 6,000 feet away, right? Which is great for roadways. And that's the project we're working on. And then at the other end, we convert that to whatever format of power you need, whether it be DC or AC power. So it's, again, digital electricity or fault managed power from one end to the other. And then when you get to the other end, we convert that to whatever power is needed for the remote location that's on the other end. In this case, it would be a PoE switch powering a camera, right? So it doesn't matter what appliance is on the other end. We're sending that power long distance, so you don't have to run set a meter at that location. You bring all your power in one location, back it up in one location, and now I have backed up resilient power at the other end that I can maintain at this end.
And what does deployment look like in terms of disruption?
Deployment is easy. It's fast, it's simple. Low voltage folks can install our product because you don't have to put it in power pipe, so you don't have to put a second pipe in for power. You can run it with your fiber. So as you're pulling fiber, you're pulling copper along with it. So the time frame is the same amount of time as you're pulling your fiber, and the same people pulling it, right? So there's very low disruption. Even if you're in a building or even if you're outside and you have to drill for putting in pipe, you're core boring, you're doing all these things that disrupt everything around you, and then you have to lay that pipe. You might have to be digging big ditches. In our case, you can just sink the cable in the ground as a micro trench or something like that. So very low disruption, or as much as you need when you're laying the fiber, that type of thing.
And I know one of the applications we mentioned is the PoE and cameras. What are some other applications like IoT, AV, something else?
Controller boxes in manufacturing facilities, RFID on roadways, right? So we're doing RFID controls for, I forget the name of the company, but it basically it's an RFID overhead that you read. We can do PoE, we can do ONT, so GPON, you can do Wi-Fi, you can do anything that you need. Just standard Ethernet ports, right? So we're doing projects where we're actually putting in outdoor furniture in parking lots to be able to supply Cat 6 out to all the different parking spaces for autonomous cars and that type of thing. So there's a lot of unique ways and a lot of use cases for the product.
So does this reduce conduit, electrical rooms, heavy infrastructure?
At the far end, yes. And even the transmitter cell itself can be 277 volts, so you can come off of a 480 leg, right, single phase leg, and be able to power the product without putting a transformer in, which could save you a year in time and cost of the transformer. So infrastructure is big, the mine material is much smaller, the cable's only 16 gauge. You're not running this big heavy cable out to the far end. And if you have to go very long distances, you go from a 2-inch pipe to a 4-inch pipe. So now you're talking about even more construction and heavier cable or heavier pipe. Therefore, more cost involved in whatever distances you're talking about per foot, right?
Right. So when you're speaking to the owner, when NCS is speaking to our clients, what is the moment that they get it? When you're explaining this to them and they're like, that's the aha moment in regards to digital electricity and the value that they can have.
You're telling me that I don't have to bring an electrician in and run standard power 3,000 feet down that location, down a fence line or whatever to power a camera, right? They're like, I had no idea you could do that. And then I just had a gentleman here a minute ago, and he's just like, I didn't know anything about you. He works at airports. He's like, I could have done all these projects at the airport, with you because it's either temporary, ads, moves, and changes is big for us. So if you go one location today, you might have to go 800 feet away 6 months from now. You just extend our cable and continue on 800 more feet. You don't have to bring the electrician back in, run a whole nother branch circuit out to that location. So there's just many different reasons and ways that you can implement this system. Doesn't matter if it's, like I said, controller boxes, Wi-Fi, APs, you can do ONTs, you can do RFID. I mean, it's endless. It's an appliance on the other end of our product, and it doesn't matter what that appliance is. It can be anything. We're even powering, charging batteries. We can power, come off of BESS trailers and we can go temporary for, you know, any temporary outage that you might have. You can do something temporary, just wheel it back up. We're safe. So you can step on it, you can cut through it. It's not harmful to anybody. So therefore, you know, from a temporary perspective, it really works well.
Yeah. After we get done here and we take a little quick tour of the booth, you can click on this post and read our blog, and it's going to give you even more information about digital electricity and how that applies to your market.